Hey guys, it's Jennifer here from the I Am Love podcast. I know it has been such a long time since I have recorded anything, but I really thought that I was ready to come back and to record a podcast. Things have been really hectic the past year or so, and that's because a lot of changes have happened, all great changes, beautiful, wonderful things, but I just didn't feel as motivated or ready to make a podcast. I was more so focused on like the Instagram posts and things like that, if you've been following me on Instagram. But now I feel like I'm ready to come back to the podcast and record for you guys. I can't promise how consistent I will be with it, because before in the past I have promised that I would make certain podcasts and it didn't go through. So I don't want to make any promises to you guys that I'm gonna make like, weekly podcasts or something like that. I'm just gonna like go with the flow and see what feels good to me and record in that way. Recently, a lot of, downloads have come to me, a lot of important things that I want to talk to you guys about. So I thought that this would be a good topic today to start with, simply because manifesting committed relationships is such a big thing in the community, right? And I say the word committed because a committed relationship is different than a quick fix type of relationship. So I want to discuss the difference between manifesting a committed, secure, stable relationship versus a quick fix type of thing. Now, I feel like most people in the community, at least from what I have seen from my perspective, that a lot of people are focusing more on the quick fixes. So a quick fix is, just kind of like doing affirmations for the person, or even tackling self-love in like a very surface level type of way, like to do something to receive something. And a client of mine recently pointed out of a really good word, and she used it in her own life actually, is the word transactional. And so transactional, I think, is such a good way to put it of how people view manifesting relationships. It's like, I do something, then I get a result. I do something, and then I get a result. That to me is more like a quick fix type of way, depending upon how we see it. Of course, not everything is seen in that way. I'm more so talking about in general. Transactional is good because a lot of people are tackling manifesting committed relationships in a way where they are only focused on the outcome. We're only focused on the goal. And like I've written in my recent article, sometimes we do that because we are looking for the relationship to quote unquote save us, to save us from ourselves, to save us from our current 3D experience, to make us feel better in some way. Now, I do believe human connection is very important. I do believe that we do need human connection to a certain degree as long as we are having a human experience. Some people may disagree with that, and that's perfectly okay. That's just how I personally see it. So I don't necessarily like thinking in the sense of we don't need no one to fulfill us ever or to ever make us happy and things like that. I understand where people are coming from. And again, that's all perfectly okay. We're all allowed to believe what resonates with us and what feels good to us. I personally believe that we are allowed to honor and accept our desire of wanting a relationship and a connection with the person. However, like I have written in a article last year, I think it was, a desire is not a need in the sense that we need it to save us or we need it to complete us in some way. It can add to our life. It can help amplify beautiful experiences we want to experience, but it's not the ultimate thing that is going to save us. Because if we're always looking to another person to give us something all the time, right? I'm not saying that we can never want support or validation and love. Of course, that is more than okay to want and desire those things. However, if it starts to feel like a need, like we are using it to save us, and we're focusing only on the object of the desire, it can start to translate into our manifesting process where we are manifesting quote unquote quick fixes. A quick fix, something that we unconsciously strive for, like when the ego has been in survival mode for such a long time and it feels very uneasy and it hasn't felt those things ever in its entire life, like that feeling of love or that feeling of completion or wholeness, it will unconsciously look for the quick fixes to feel those feelings. However, they keep us in those same hot and cold cycles, and sometimes we strive for them simply because it is familiar, because it feels safe to do so, because we're so used to staying in a cycle where we are the person who identifies as looking for quick fixes or who needs quick fixes. And of course, that's all an illusion. Like, that is the main reason we come into these teachings, is to remember this. And naturally, the desire is a beautiful byproduct of that. And because quick fixes can feel so safe, sometimes we end up not even believing that we can have more. Like, we don't trust that we can have more. The quick fixes sometimes just feel more accessible in some way, right? They seem like easier to do. And that's because the ego is just stuck in that survival, striving, needing type of mode. But it's an illusion that we're feeling. And if we don't take the time to pause, self-reflect, give ourselves the things that we want to feel, embody the things that we want to feel, give ourselves that self-love. And when I say feel, I don't mean that we're feeling 100% self-love, right? That's not what it is about at all. That is a misconception. But this feeling of trust, knowing, security, safety, that we are going to be okay, that we can experience what we want, but that we don't need it to do X, Y, and Z. And once we make that shift, we won't see ourselves in a role where we are striving and only manifesting quick fixes. However, in order to do this, we have to be willing to take a leap of faith. We have to be willing to let go of what we're holding on to. And that does seem very scary, right? That seems very scary, especially when a lot of unlovely stories are coming to the surface and we're being faced with our own unlovely narratives. Like Neville calls it, we're dying to the old man. It can feel scary and it can feel tempting to go back to the same familiar pattern that we are used to staying stuck in. So we have to be very self-aware. It's really important to be self-aware of when you're falling back into those patterns and to know when to break the pattern and how to break the pattern. And for each person, this is going to look completely different because each person's patterns are different and the way they embody it in the 3D world is different. But if you feel like you're at a place where you resonate with the things that I'm saying and you know that you are falling back into old patterns, that is a sign that you need to take some time to really reflect on where you are embodying these patterns and where it is that you need to go all in and take the leap of faith to start to break these patterns. And it's going to feel unsafe because remember, your ego is so used to that quick fix, giving itself that quick fix to feel that temporary feeling of relief, that not striving for that anymore is going to feel like something is being taken away from you, like you're doing something wrong. A lot of my clients, they will come to me when they've really made that shift, and I can see they have made that shift and they are making it. They come to me and they say, Jen, I feel scared. I feel confused. I feel like I've lost my desire. And they start to become afraid that they've lost their desire. And I reply and I tell them, like, no, we're used to thinking that love, especially the love in the relationships, is pining, longing, desperation, seeking, needing. Like, we are so used to thinking that that is what love is, that when we start to really shift out of that, it will feel like a shock to our nervous system. It will feel like a shock to the ego. It will feel like, wow, this is new. This is different, and it will feel uncomfortable. It will feel scary. It will feel unsafe at times. However, this is a misconception, and it is this point that is so pivotal and important, that determines how much you let go of those old identities and you embody what it is that it would feel like to really allow and give yourself permission to receive and experience a beautiful, committed, stable relationship. Something that is completely different from the hit or miss, hot and cold, quick fix solutions. And I'm telling you guys, it is a different way of feeling and being. And if we've never experienced it before, it can feel scary, it can feel off, it can feel confusing at times. The good thing is that when we embrace all of that and we honor it and we say, you know what, it's okay that I feel all this, we allow it to be there, we observe it, we hold space for it, but you have to be okay with it and feel safe with it as a part of the process, as a part of integrating and embodying the new states of beings that you want to embody. Usually at this point is when a lot of people either give up or give in, or they assume they're doing something wrong or they're messing up the process. But you're not messing up the process. You're not doing anything wrong. Just because something feels unfamiliar doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean that you're messing up the process. And I know that's tempting again. When you remember it is your ego that is seeking for that thing that it misses, that quick fix, and it feels scared that it's losing it, it starts to become a little bit easier to understand what's happening, right? So make sure you are aware to yourself of what is actually happening, the process and the mechanism of what's happening, so that it doesn't feel like you're doing something wrong or like you're missing something. Okay, it's really important to see it that way. It also brings me into the next topic of remembering that feeling confident, secure, safe, loved is not the absence of discomfort. Now, a lot of people assume that that is what confidence is. Confidence is not having zero doubts. It is not having zero negative emotions or fears or feelings. It is simply navigating it differently, shifting what it represents for you. If you are shoving it down and suppressing it and running away from your own self, it is going to feel really bad. It's going to feel really bad. It's going to feel like you're doing something wrong, but you're not. You're not doing anything wrong. It's going to perpetuate that feeling of needing something in the 3D world to make you feel better, right? Because you're labeling those feelings as meaning that, right? You're not holding space for it. You're not being there for yourself. You're not giving yourself that love or that validation. Like the ego needs to feel heard, seen, and validated. That is what the inner us needs to feel, that part of us that feels those unlovely, disempowered feelings. And by avoiding it and running away from it, we're not hearing ourselves, we're not seeing it. Now, this does not mean that we are giving into it in a negative, unlovely way. This does not mean that. It just means that we are being present with it, holding space for ourselves, and no longer giving it the same role that we did before. True safety is feeling safe in the face of anything. I mean, unless there is a true, real danger, right? That's different. But feeling safe is feeling safe in the face of these internal fears, knowing that they are not an issue, that it is completely safe to face them, to know that they don't mean what we think they mean. So, feeling confident, secure, self loving, all of these beautiful things that you want to feel, it is not the absence of those things. And it is really important to remember that. Because, like I said, when we're feeling these feelings, that is another reason we want to go and strive and seek validation by checking social media, looking up a new technique, looking up another video, venting, any of those things. And that's because we are running away from ourselves and looking for something to make us feel good and relieved. But we need to start to really be present with it in that way. And the more we do that, the more we're cultivating self-trust. The more it is that we're cultivating that safety and that security, the less we will feel like we need to be saved. And, manifesting a commitment in a stable, secure relationship, it is different than the quick fixes. It is going to require us to remember the bigger picture and not just what we want to feel in that moment from the other person. When we aren't remembering the bigger picture and we're striving for those quick fixes, it is giving into a false form of protection and safety, a false form of security. We think that those things will make us feel those way. And like I said earlier, I don't believe that we don't need those kinds of connections to a certain degree. But when we feel like it is the only thing that's going to make us feel the way we want to feel, and it is the only source of it, and we're not even focusing on other areas of our life or cultivating that connection between ourselves and our true self, and remembering our true self, really recognizing it, it will start to feel like an issue. And it's going to be very short-lived. The quick fixes, they are short-lived. I've had clients come to me who have practiced other ways of manifesting, and they have mentioned to me that they would manifest that text message and that date or whatever it is, but then things would go back the same. And this is what I mean when I say quick fixes or short-lived. Yes, it's short-lived. You're going to manifest those little things here and there, but you have to keep the bigger picture in mind. You have to remember that that's not what it is that you want. That's not what you want anymore. What you want is the commitment and the love and the beautiful, stable relationship. You want that you are in a relationship where you're not always doing something to get something. I know that everyone wants something different, but this podcast is specifically for people that want that kind of relationship and commitment. So it may feel good at first to get these things. It'll give you that satisfaction that you want in that moment, but then it will go away. It will go away, and then eventually you'll just start to feel really tired of it, right? You'll start to feel like, like this is not all that I want. I want more. And you deserve more. You deserve to experience more. But you have to show up in a way where that is all that you're allowing yourself to receive. And it is not going to always be an easy process. Like I said, the ego will feel afraid sometimes. It will feel scary. It might feel unsafe. But all of that is still completely valid and completely okay. And like I said earlier, it doesn't mean that you're messing up anything or that you are messing up the process. I want you guys to remember that when you're doing your processes for manifesting a relationship or anything, I want you to remember that you're not just manifesting quick fixes. Because if that's all that we focus on, that is all that the 3D world is going to reflect back. Because it has to reflect back our self-concept, what we are accepting for ourselves, who we are seeing ourselves as. If we are seeing ourselves as someone who only receives quick fixes, and we're also embodying that by tackling manifesting in that way and taking action from that place and consistently reacting from that place, and not taking the step back to really reflect and change things and shift how we are showing up, it will continue to reflect back those inconsistent hot and cold results. And maybe even not even seeing it as results anymore. I know that I have used that term in the past and many people do, but we don't want to see it as a reward that we're getting, right? We don't want to see it as, again, this transactional thing. I'm doing this and then I get this. That's not what that kind of relationship is, right? It is beautiful. It is evolving. It is something that's very connected. It is something more, and that will require us to open our hearts more to receive that, to allow that in. And we can only do that if we are opening our hearts with ourselves to receive that in. When I say receive, I don't mean that we are attracting something to us. I mean that we are allowing ourselves to trust and know that this is what we are going to have and experience. It's basically saying that we're not settling for anything less. And that is what I had to do when I was manifesting a relationship. I had to essentially tell myself, I am not settling for anything less. I am willing to face anything to shift out of the state of being someone who is only receiving those quick fix, hot and cold, inconsistent results. And I had to make that commitment to myself. Now, there are many other reasons why we don't allow commitment into our life, right? Sometimes it feels scary to be in a committed relationship. Sometimes we are afraid that we're going to get hurt again, or that we're going to be rejected or abandoned, or that something bad is going to happen if we really go all in. Sometimes it feels like it just may never happen because we're so used to experiencing it, in one way. So really, truly what it comes down to is making that commitment to ourselves to reflect on what we need to shift and embody differently, and be willing to no longer receive those quick fixes. And that means that if currently in the 3D world you're not receiving those quick fixes, there is a part of you that has to be okay with that. There is a part of you that has to be okay with that, because you have to remember that that's not what it is that you want. That's not what you actually truly want. It is an illusion from your ego that thinks that that is what you need and want right now. But that's not what you want, which is why I said that we have to keep that bigger picture in mind. We have to remember in those moments when nothing is happening, or where it feels like things are stagnant, that we actually don't want those quick fixes anymore. What we want is that full commitment, whatever that looks like for you, right? Whatever that kind of relationship looks like for you. Keep that in mind, that that is what you truly want. So not receiving the quick fixes are actually a good thing. That is how you want to perceive it from now on. That is how you want to see it. That is how you want to show up in the face of these things. Okay? So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast. Like I said, I am going to be making more, but I don't know exactly how my schedule is going to look like with that. And I don't want to make any promises to you guys. So I will do the best that I can. But I felt really compelled to put this one out because I just felt like a lot of people needed to hear it. So I'm going to be posting this, and I will keep you guys updated on any future podcasts. I know that I did promise you guys that I would make a podcast on my step-by-step way of manifesting. And to be honest, any other podcast that I am going to be making does kind of go hand in hand with that. I will let you guys know, and I will update you. And as usual, thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you guys so much for being here and for continuing to stay here, even though I haven't been uploading podcasts or things like that. It truly means so much to me when I see your beautiful messages and I see you guys supporting. So I just really want to thank you guys for that. And if you guys need any coaching to help you with any of the topics that I have spoken about in this podcast, I do have that available. It isn't a necessity, you don't need it, but if you feel like you want someone to help guide you, or if you want someone to be there by your side while you go through this, I would be more than happy to do so. And all of that is going to be in the description box below. So I'm sending you guys love.